been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. Hot or cold, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with the topic session with my good friend Tonya Carter. And I'm just going to warn you before we get into this, it's about to be some heat, y'all. So I just want to warn you, anytime, if any of you have ever heard her speak or been around her, you know what I'm talking about. And so I just wanted to put the warning out there. But we're going to do this topic session over navigating through difficult situations. And, before we start, I want to say thanks so much for, always showing support for the Chronicles, always willing to be a part. And I'm so appreciative of that because, a lot of those things you don't have to do. And so I want to tell you first off, thanks so much.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you having me coming back. I feel like that's an honor in itself. And so I was like, you know what, I need to get in contact with my boy Chip. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I said, let me go on and do it for 2020.
Let's go. Well, what's on your heart? What you thinking about navigating through difficult situations?
Well, with all what's been going on in the world, with the coronavirus and how it's impacting all of us. This is a thing where everybody is impacted. Like no person is not affected by this. Whether it's your business, your job, the schools are closing, so you have to make arrangements for your kids. So there's a lot going on right now, and
it's layers to it.
Layers to it, absolutely, and it's causing people to move from a place of fear. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. We do have to be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not telling people not to be cautious and not to take any level of preventative measures, but how we moved during these times really shows us how emotionally equipped we are. That's one of the things that I've really noticed because, I'm a relationship coach. So I work with people. And one of the biggest things that we tap on is your emotions, because it's situations like this that can cause you to become emotionally intoxicated. That's what I call it. Because if I can't speak for everybody else, but if you've ever consumed too much alcohol and got drunk, you're not thinking, you're not in your right state of mind. You probably wish you wouldn't have done certain things. It's the same situation in this circumstance, just how, I don't know if you've been to the store, but it's just been like people are just overly buying, overly spending, just in this frantic where they're operating from a place of scarcity. Because my kids my son asked me, he said, Mom, why is everybody buying all the toilet paper? And I was like, some people move from a place of scarcity. Yeah. And when we fear that we're not going to have enough, that's how we move. We move out of desperation. And so we have to be able to navigate through difficult times, because even when this is done, because this is a season, and that's what we have to understand. This is not something that's going to be permanent. This is a temporary season. We don't know how long it's going to be, but it is a season. And the question is, how are you going to navigate when things get tough? Because that's what really shows you what you really are made of. That's what really tests who you really are in the times of trouble. And, one of my favorite mentors, Inky Johnson, says, like, you
come on,
you already know. He said something along these lines. You revert back to your training when things go like this. So basically, you're just showing who you really are. And so we have to be able to get through these tough times and be able to manage them in a way that we're not making emotional decisions. We need to think logically more. Our EQs are low, and we need to start thinking logically on how to move and how to navigate. And so I think that's really important, because when this season is over, something else is going to transpire, maybe even from a personal level. And then the question is, how are you going to manage it? How are you going to navigate through it? Because that is when you build your resilience and your faith. That's when you really know what you're made of, is when you go through something. And so, that's what I really wanted to talk about.
Okay. You hit on, several great points, and it took everything in me to just hold on and just listen, right? Because
right.
I wanted to jump in there like that. Jump.
Yeah.
I'm ready to jump in there.
Right.
Then you said ink. Oh, I was ready to go double dutch
Yes,
with you.
I listen to him religiously. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of things that you hit on that I truly agree with. I think we do have to work on being emotionally equipped, and not be, too far over here or too far over here, but just working on, maintaining that balance of our emotions. And, I heard this analogy, and this is perfect for the scenario that we're talking about, where, this guy, he went white water rafting. And I don't know about the spring, because I ain't never done that and probably never will. But
Right.
he went white water rafting, and the instructor was saying, if you ever get in a bind where it's rocky, hunker down to your center of gravity, because what happens, that'll allow you to keep your balance. Don't reach over to one side and do any of that. And for me, I think in this scenario, that's what it's like in our lives. When we go through tough things in our life, we just have to hunker down and hold on to what we believe in. And you talked about, our core common principles, our firm foundation of those things that we believe in. And like you said, it's a season. Those things the rough times are going to pass for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's important to take inventory on how you respond. Like, are you proactive or are you more reactive?
Yeah.
And that is important to know, because you can really make some unhealthy decisions when you're always reacting. And that is really important to really get and understand and learn how to master. And I always tell people, you have to prepare. In other words, it's a daily thing to get ready for things like this. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you really get ready for when it happens. It's more about building that muscle.
Yeah.
So when it happens, you already have the tools and the strategies in place to be able to manage. You already built up that emotional tank to think logically, as opposed to thinking emotionally.
And your perspective on how you prepare. You
Correct.
talked about Inky, you said, you sink to your level of training, but, really, if your perspective is on preparing, because that tough times are going to come,
Absolutely.
then none of that startles you, because like you've been prepared. You're good. And I'm gonna, since you went Inky, I'm gonna go Inky on you too.
Love Inky. I do. I love me some Inky.
And you've heard this one before, but I'm gonna share it. How you view what you do will always affect how you do what you do.
Absolutely.
And, it's about, your perspective on things. And we have to know that, things could be better for sure, but they can always be worse. Right. And so we have to make sure that we keep that even keel perspective, which allows us to be humble and hungry. Like understanding that we're blessed to achieve, we're blessed to have what we have, even though it's tough times. But then I also want to be hungry and prepare and make sure that things are good. But it doesn't allow you to get so far out of whack. It allows you to, to stay in the parameters of who you are and what you believe in.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean to ignore what's going on, because sometimes people think that when you look at the brighter side, you're not acknowledging what's currently happening. And it's not that we're not, but it's like, how can I take advantage of this current situation? Because you really can take advantage of it. I mean, and you have to, and that's the perspective that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Like, what can you do?
Oh
Like, don't,
man.
you know, when you feed yourself on what you can't do, you're putting a ceiling, and you're allowing that ceiling to stop you from seeing what could actually be done.
Yeah, no limits.
No
Don't put limits
limits.
on yourself.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, you know, even if it's not technically just a coronavirus, I mean, because I'm not talking about just this, I'm talking about being able to manage different situations. This is just something that we all can relate to because it does impact everybody. But
Yeah.
from a personal level, like being divorced is a prime example. It doesn't impact everybody because everybody doesn't get affected by it. But for those who do, we still have to be able to know how to manage that stress, because in that season, you are very emotionally intoxicated. You have to know how to be able to navigate through that moment, because you can find yourself making very off the wall decisions, emotional
Mm-hmm.
spending. You can find yourself drinking, eating a lot. You can find yourself even being in another relationship that really doesn't serve you. You just find yourself doing a lot of different stuff. When you lose your job, you can find yourself, you know, and I know for myself, I understand what it's like to go through stuff, because I lost 5 jobs in 4 years,
Mm.
and from '08 to 2012. So when my ex-husband and I decided to split 2 weeks later, I lost my job 14 days later. I mean, I had my budget mapped out. I had everything done. 2 weeks later, I was laid off. And then I lost 4 more jobs. And I went through a lot of financial hardships. I didn't have a car for a year. I owed the IRS. You know what I'm saying? Like every time you looked up, something was going on. And it was like, man, how do I navigate through all of this? And it was very stressful. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot going on. And so I had to learn that, okay, when other things occur moving forward, I need to be in a better place to be able to handle this, because I didn't handle it very well. I was worrying a lot. I was fearful. And what that did for me, it allowed me to put limits on how far I could go. I was saying, oh, I'm a single mom. Let me just limit myself to this job. I lost 5 jobs in 4 years, so let me just take what I can get. So it makes you choose out of desperation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You go through a divorce. If you don't build up your self-love of yourself, you start to think that you're not worthy, and you get desperate, and you'll grab any man off the shelf. And so before you know it, you just created a settling culture, because you are not learning how to build yourself up, you know, before you even go through a situation. And you have to rebuild yourself, and you have to be built. You have to create a new foundation to stand on, because life is going to happen whether you want to or not. You know what I'm saying? Like everything could be going great today, and then it doesn't take nothing but another day or the same day for something to occur. And so you got to be willing to be able to manage these situations in a logical way and stop reacting from an emotional place.
I love it. I love it. You talked about the culture. You talked about, building yourself up. And I think it makes me reflect on the process. Just the process of continued work. And we have to fall in love with the process. We have to know that, we are continued work in progress. We're going to make some mistakes. None of
Right.
us are perfect, and some may make more than others,
Yeah.
but you can't beat yourself up about it. Just know that, things happen, and, the sooner you can get back on the track, the far you'll go,
Right. You got to trust your process too.
Yeah.
Like Chip's process and Tonya's process is different.
Yeah.
We may have the same goal, and that's to strive and be better versions of who we are. But our process and our journeys are different. And understand, and that's important, because we'll look at somebody else's process and be like, well, mine doesn't look like theirs. And it's not. And be okay with that. And stay in your lane. Like stay all up in your lane. Because when you start going over in somebody else's lane, you lose sight of where you're headed. And then you start to question your journey. And then you start to wonder if this makes sense. And then before you know it, you're talking yourself out to keep going.
Yeah, you just got to focus in and turn the music down a little bit, and make sure you focus in on those signs.
Yeah. And this is a perfect time to do it.
Yeah,
when things are going on.
When you're on that journey, it's some road signs on your path. You just got to be able to read them.
Yeah, you do. And it's in these times where it's good to silence the noise.
Yes.
And really figure out what is this really teaching me?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get that aha moment with a lot of noise. Like, people are over watching the news. They're getting information from people who are not even trusted sources. They're filling their heads up with information that only causes them to panic even more. I bet you some people are actually physically getting sick behind this, where they actually think they got the virus, when in reality, they've allowed fear to overpower them so much that their body is responding to the fear. Because that's what happens when you keep listening to that stuff, and like, if it's just going in between your two ears all day, then you start to panic, you start to worry, that fear starts to come up. And so that's why you really have to silence the noise and really say, man, what is this really teaching me right now? And so I got a breakthrough today. I was like, you know what? I got some things I need to really get done around the house that I really just hadn't got done.
Yeah.
Because I just hadn't had time. I know that may sound small to some people, but I'm like,
huge.
you know what? Because I think we're going to be like this for a few weeks. My kids going to be out of school. I said, listen, we're going to get some things together around this house that I hadn't had an opportunity to do. I'm going to work on some business stuff I hadn't been able to work on. So that's me taking advantage of the opportunity.
Love it. And it's so true. I mean, you just have to seize the moment. I mean, control the controllables, and the things that you can't control, don't worry about that. Like you said, like, I had to tell a funny on myself. Like, I don't even watch the news or any of that stuff. Like, I don't even want to,
yeah.
I just focus
it's
on my thing,
Yeah, it's almost like I've watched a little bit of it, but I haven't overwhelmed myself with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm very cautious of what's being planted between my ears. I wasn't like that before, but I've been doing this for over 5 years now. So it's just routine for me. But it's important for people to understand that, like, you got to take it seriously, and I tell people that all the time, because this is a good time to be informed properly.
Mm-hmm.
That is important. We're listening to people who not skilled. They don't have any knowledge. And you're believing what they say. And it's like, learn how to get trusted information, but don't let that information, control you. Just know that you're informed on what to do. And then really figure out what's in your power right now. You can't control the coronavirus. We can control what we do, but we can't control the fact that it's here.
Yeah.
And so that's just important to know. Control the controllables. Let go of what you can't control anymore. And, figure out what you can do. How can you make some money if that's needed? Like all types of things. Like, that's the beauty of the world we do live in. We still have technology devices that we can do a lot with these things. And so that's what it's all in thinking, what has God given you in this present moment that you can use to work for your good? Whatever that may be for you. And that's important to know, because that's when he can take whatever he sees that you've given him and multiply. And we lose sight of that. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to this episode with TD Jakes, and man, I just thought this was so powerful. Mm-hmm. And he was with Steve Furtick, and he was talking about this wooden table. And he said, you know what? God didn't make the table, but he did create a tree. And so in that tree, a lot has been done with that tree. You see what I'm saying? And so that was just that's people using what they were given. So if you can make a table, some furniture, some paper, if you can do all of that from a tree, you mean to tell me you ain't got nothing to work with? You have no resources? I don't believe that.
Yeah.
So it's all about perspective, and it's all about vision and seeing beyond what the physical eyes can hold right now. That's vision. And so that's why we have to let our faith do the walking and take a step back with our fear. You know what I mean?
Let our faith do the walking and take a step back with our fear. So as I told you when we started, for those of you checking out the session, lots of heat, right? But again, thank you so much for taking the time to, just talk the topic session with me, navigating through difficult situations. And, none of us are immune from having difficult situations in our life. We're all going to have them, but it's how we handle those and navigate through them. It determines the success on the other side of that.
Oh man, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Like none of us are exempt.
Yeah.
And never look at why somebody went through this and you're going through something else. Like, don't compare adversities. Don't compare people trials. Just know that what you're going through is testing you for something better. I mean, because I'm telling you, when you start looking at other people's lanes and be like, well, they didn't go through this, why do I? When you start comparing sufferings and understand, saying, okay, well, why their suffering is different from mine, you lose sight of what you need to learn in that season. I'm actually reading the book of Job, and I'm telling you, for anybody who read the book of Job, we know the suffering that he endured. And he didn't understand why. And I think that's what really got to him a lot, is that he didn't know why. And his friends thought that it must have been something he done, but you don't even have to have done anything. Just know that you're not exempt. And that's important to know, because you'll lose sight of that, and you'll lose sight of your vision when you go through a season of things that maybe you couldn't even control. And it's important to understand that, because a lot of the time we feel like we can dodge life, and you can't.
No, you can't get around it. You're going to have to go through it.
You got to go through that bad boy, and you got to go through it with intention. And on the other side of that, how are you going to be? Because that's what really, you should not be the same person, and you should actually be a better person. If you're, and that's what's really important. And really get that. That's just how I feel about it. I don't like the responses or the reactions to how it hurts people. Actually, when they do stuff like this, they spend money they can't afford, and they do things that they normally wouldn't do, and it actually sets them back further and move them forward.
That's awesome. Well, again, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me and talk this topic session. And I wish you continued success and all of the amazing things you have going on.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate it. I love being on here. I love it. I love it. I do.
Yeah. And I love having you. And we're going to do it again a few more times. How about that?
Of course. Always. Oh, yeah. We always going to do something.
That's it.
Absolutely. I'm down for it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, again, thank you. And thank you guys for checking out this session. We'll see you next time. God bless. Go get it.